Hey, Rebel Bankers, this is your host, Chris Noggle, and welcome to the show. I have a special guest today, Kent Clothier from Real Estate Worldwide. We're going to be talking a little bit about how he got started, some of the obstacles he went through in his journey, and how he overcame them. So for all of you who are just getting started on your journey to becoming Rebel Bankers, I want you all to know that the journey is not as hard as you make it out to be. Money is always the biggest barrier to everybody entering real estate. So if that's your barrier, the best way to get started is grab a copy of my book, The Private Money Guide. Check out all of our programs and the different things we have going on at chrisnoggle.com. But let's jump right into this because there's way better stuff that's going to come out of this. So Kent, welcome to the Real Estate Money School. Tell us tell us a little bit about your investing business, what it's looking like today, and however you want to explain that.
Yeah. So my family runs our investment company based out of Memphis, Tennessee, Memphis and Dallas, in fact. We're a turnkey operator. So we buy, rehab, and then put tenants in place and sell properties as managed assets, performing assets to investors all over the world. We roughly sell right at between 900 and 1,000 houses a year. And so we've done almost 6,000 right now. We manage another 6,000 properties. We're in Dallas, Houston, St. Louis, Little Rock, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Oklahoma City, and continuing to grow by leaps and bounds. We've been doing it. I got started in real estate back in December of 2002. I guess was the first time I ever went to an event. In January 2003, I did my first wholesale deal. And we've been going strong ever since. And so 16 years, right at it.
Nice. I think the only thing missing from that equation was Buffalo, New York didn't show up in that list.
Shocker.
Shocker. Yeah, a little cold here, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
So that's
it also didn't show up as San Diego. Let's just,
That's true. And that's definitely one that would be fun. So with your real estate business, tell us a little bit about the very early years, like when you first got started in it. What did it look like? Your first couple deals, or just take us back to the beginning and tell us about your journey.
Yeah. So I got started in real estate kind of out of necessity. I had quite a bit of success in a previous life in a business called Diverting, which was kind of an arbitrage business. I was buying and selling groceries, believe it or not, truckloads of groceries, doing hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and built a very, very large business. And as fate would have it, got into a tiff with my business partners and I, and got run out of the business, and spent the next couple of years kind of feeling sorry for myself and making a bunch of bad decisions business-wise that ultimately cost me everything. And so after I got done licking my wounds, I turned around and got invited to go to a real estate seminar. I went and saw that they were talking about wholesaling, knew nothing about it, and had up until that point had expressed no interest in real estate whatsoever. But coming from what I had just come from, which was again kind of flipping truckloads of groceries, I was able to quickly put two and two together and understand that flipping houses, what I was being shown, was not too different. And so I jumped in and started flipping houses. I did my first deal in January 2003, made $8,000 on it. Very exciting, and became a quick learner. I always have been a quick learner, quick start. And so my first 18 months, I did 91 deals, made over $1 million, crushed in the wholesale. This is before any automation, this was before any data, this was before any internet for that matter. There was no way to go get any of this kind of stuff. And so this was all just sheer brute force. Go, 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 go. And so from there, those deals kind of lit the fire, if you will, and eventually led us down a path to where a lot of the buyers that we were selling properties to, as the years went on and the market started to shift a little bit, they no longer wanted to buy from me down in South Florida. They wanted to buy in places that were a little bit more stable, a little more cash flow friendly. So we started taking our buyers up to Memphis, where I was from South Florida, where I then lived, and started showing them what they could buy for $100,000, which was significantly different than what they were able to buy in South Florida. And so showed them how they could cash flow, showed them how they could make some money, showed them how they could, instead of buying one house, they could go buy 3, 4, 5 houses. And that was kind of the beginning, the incarnation of Memphis Invest, right? Bringing out-of-state people in there back in 2008 is how the whole thing really got started.
Yeah, right when the whole bottom fell out of the market, you guys were just getting rolling. That's a perfect opportunity waiting to happen right there.
Amen, baby.
So during this process, when you were just like back to those early, couple that you did, you had a knack for it. You're a quick start, but what did the money situation look like for you? Because back when most investors get started, usually they're going to, come in and they know about the traditional sources of money being banks and that, but how did you get started? Where did the money come from in your first few deals?
Well, keep in mind, I was wholesaling and I was broke, right? I had just lost over $2 million in a failed business over a 22-month period. So I was extremely beat up. I did not believe in my abilities to do anything at that particular point, right? I feel like I was making a bunch of bad decisions, business decisions in particular. And so I was really focused on how do I just stop being broke. And so wholesaling was very appealing to me at that time because I didn't need any money. If I could go find a deal, I can assign a deal and I could flip the deal. I was in it. I was just blood, sweat, and tears, right? Mm-hmm. And so the first few deals, the first 100, 200 deals were like that for me. I was assigning everything. I was going as hard as I could. And then I started using money to fund my marketing and then eventually started doing rehabs. And so it was only, we probably had flipped 200 houses before I ever really got involved in the private money side and going and recruiting money and doing all that kind of good stuff. Everything for me out of the gate was just about flipping a deal and making the cash quickly.
And I'll never forget the very first time we heard about you was, we got something online, or Larissa did actually, my wife. She got something online about your book, Reverse Wholesaling. And literally she devoured that book, and that book changed her life because it was just so different than anything. And you know what else is different is just the way you got started, how you jumped in. You had no money because you just lost it all. Then all of a sudden you jump in and you're wholesaling deals, which is low risk, fast pace. I mean, when you were doing that, at what point did you actually start doing your own deals? How many years was it? Or did you just continue on wholesaling?
Well, I continued on. What I started doing is I started cherry picking ones. It took me a year and a half, 2 years before my confidence was kind of where it needed to be.
Wow.
Where, basically the money problem was solved. I knew I was never going to be broke again, right? Which is a huge deal. As an entrepreneur, you go through all these different phases and everybody experiences it different ways, whether you're trying to walk away from a 9-to-5 or you're trying to, whatever the case may be. But at some point, when you do that, you start to realize that you can pick up a phone or you can drive down the street and you can go find a property and you can quickly flip a house. To your point, low risk, no risk. Mm-hmm. There's a magic moment that happens when you realize, oh wow, okay, so I'm never going to be broke. Like I literally know what to do, that I will always be able to pay the bills. And so when that happens, then you kind of move into phase 2. And so now it's about, all right, so I know the money thing's handled. How do I figure out how to get more out of a deal? And so that really started happening for me. Like I said, probably in the second year, I was like, all right, so what else can I be doing as a part of the deal? I'm flipping these houses to other investors. I clearly know that some of these deals are home run deals. And so and I had already built a reputation in my market. And so that's when I started seeking out private money partners and that kind of stuff. It's probably in my second deal, I started doing rehabs, which I quickly figured out that I wasn't very good at, but I had to go down that path anyway. And again, our business now is that we buy it, rehab it, put a renter in place, and then sell it. But during this whole time, we've kept wholesaling as well the entire time because it's just the money is too easy.
So you always just stayed true to that. And that's great, because so many people, they might start with wholesale, but then once they kind of master wholesaling, they get that itch to jump into flipping, and then they keep going into that. And a lot of them, from what I've seen, and maybe from what you've seen, they go from wholesaling, which is their bread and butter. Then they jump over to the flip side, and they're only doing the flips. They forget all about what got them there. Right. And I think that's just a huge mistake. Huge mistake.
Yeah. I mean, you've got two completely different things going on, right? I mean, you got one that is you can make $10,000 in 24 hours, or you have the other one where you can make $50,000 in 90 days. And so to not have both of those things in your arsenal, I think is a mistake, for sure. And to your point, I mean, it's a mistake that's made all the time.
Yeah. And during this journey, like your first 2 years, what would you say your biggest internal obstacle was in your growth pattern?
Self-doubt, for sure.
Okay. That's what I thought. You were kind of hinting on that. I just wanted
because I had been very, very, very successful, right? By anybody's measure. From 17 until 30, I had built a company that was doing $1.8 billion a year in sales and was the 7th largest privately held company in the state of Florida. It was empire. And so getting run out of that, having to run in with my business partners and kind of getting forced out of it, and just moved on, and then turn around and making bad business decisions over and over and over and over and over again, and watching my entire life savings dwindle over 2 years. At some point, naturally, you begin to, the conversation that's going on in your head is just very different. And it's, man, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. Maybe I'm not intended to be an entrepreneur. Maybe I'm going to have to go back to work for somebody else. I mean, all that self-doubt was, pervasive for me. But luckily, I'd grown up in an entrepreneurial family. I'd seen my father struggle. I'd seen, him go through bankruptcy. I'd seen what it takes to keep going. And so I just kept going. I kept pushing, and, as fate would have it, that's more times than not, that's the difference between winning and losing. It is not about being great at anything. It's about just having enough fortitude to stay in the game.
I couldn't agree with that more. Yeah. Being consistent and persistent always gets you there.
Yeah.
And then also too, so that's a little bit about the internal obstacles. What about externally? Did anything fight you externally when you were growing? I mean, you had your internal doubts, but what other roadblocks did you hit on that journey?
I mean, if I don't know how many people here are new investors, but I can tell you, if you haven't gone, the recession was hard, right? That housing market crash was brutal. Mm-hmm. And so for a lot of new investors, they haven't experienced that, right? They've come into the game since 2012, 2013. So they don't know what it's like for how bad that really was. 2008, 2009, even into 2010 was a brutal time in this business. But ironically, it was also a time when, we shined. Our business grew exponentially during all those years. And the reason why is because we were so focused on just selling to cash buyers versus selling to people that needed banks. And so that was a huge benefit for us. I'd love to tell you that we strategically were doing that to try to stay ahead of the curve. It wasn't. We were just trying to do it because we didn't like competing against everybody else. We wanted to do things a little differently. We'd had success doing it that way in the past, but that worked out great for us. But I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that it wasn't still a major shock to the system. That was a lot of getting punched right there.
Yeah, I'll never forget those times. I almost went bankrupt during that time. I learned so much during that fallout, but I made a lot of mistakes. I wasn't ready for the opportunities that would have presented themselves if you were ready for a fallout like that. And I think this is a perfect place. And I've heard you mention this, and I feel exactly the same, but let's tell the audience a little bit about kind of what you see on the horizon. I mean, you and I think both would agree there's a storm coming. There's a storm coming. And it's going to change everything that's happening for a lot of people. And just like a storm in weather, here in Buffalo, we get snowstorms. In California, you guys get other types of storms, but you got to prepare for a storm. If you know there's a storm coming, you got to get ready for it. You got to get your affairs in order. You got to get your bank in order. But let's talk a little bit about that for a moment. Like, what do you think is coming, and what do you think that's going to mean for a lot of people?
Yeah, it is not a matter of if this is going to happen. It is a matter of when, right? The real estate market is cyclical. It has only happened always, right? So It is not, this is not going to be any different. Now, the levels of severity are certainly different. I don't anticipate us having the kind of correction that we had, 10 years ago. I don't see that. I just don't think any of the factors that would lead up to that are present right now. I just don't see it. But I definitely think the economy is getting ready to slow significantly. And when the economy slows, housing slows. I mean, Home Depot just announced their earnings are off, right? The Fed just announced that they are predicting the economy to start slowing right now, right? And so as that starts happening, it will reflect itself in the housing market in a very real and very tangible way. And when it does, the market will change and it will quickly become a buyer's market. It's no longer a seller's market, right? And so the vultures will come in, the cash buyers will come in, the funds will come in, everybody's coming in trying to buy everything at a discount and driving the price down on everything. And, it just is the way it is. And so you have to be prepared to deal with that. Again, when this happened to us before, or when it happened before, I should say, not happened to us, we were very fortunate. So I'm not worried about it because I've already gone through it. I know what to expect. If you are in any properties that you are fixing and flipping right now, and you're not an expert, I would not be doing that. Mm-hmm. There's no way I'd be doing rehabs if you're not an expert. I mean, you guys are experts, right? So you're different. We're experts, so it's a little different. But any new investor that's kind of getting out there and getting their feet wet and they're trying to decide, or they're deciding that they want to start with rehabs, I think is a recipe for disaster.
I couldn't agree more. And I almost sometimes I tell people this and they're like, well, I think we're just going to keep, flipping. And it's okay, but it's just, there's so many other methods and so many other strategies investors could be going into with what's coming, but they just, it's until something happens, people just, they don't want to face what's coming. They just want it to happen and then they'll figure it out. And then it's too late.
Yeah, people are delusional. I mean, that's just what happens.
That's a good word for
it. They don't understand the gravity of what we're talking about until they go lose $100,000 or $200,000. And then they'll get it then. I promise you.
Yeah, that'll devastate them. And then all of a sudden it'll be too late. The opportunity will come and go. So if we had a chance to change people's lives with this and give them a couple pieces of advice, what would you say would be some key things people should do to get ready for the downturn, for what's coming?
Wholesale, literally just wholesale, right? The appetite doesn't change. The buyers are still going to come in and they're still going to buy. And so what you and your market need to be doing is engaging those buyers now, engaging the cash buyers, getting the relationships, nurturing those relationships, fostering them, and then finding exactly what they want to be buying, and then help go get those properties under contract so that you can put yourself in a position to flip them. Get into that cycle already. Become the go-to person or persons that these people are already turning to. Because that will always serve you, buyer's market or seller's market. That's always going to be a good thing to be doing, but it will certainly serve you moving forward because you don't want to be holding property. The only properties you want to be holding are cash flowing assets.
Agreed.
Right? If it's making you money, that's something that's very different than you speculating on a house when a house values can drop very dramatically and very quickly. And so that's the, I don't know that everybody understands why we say don't rehab. That's why. It's because you go buy a house or a property and you are anticipating it's going to be worth $400,000. And you're doing all of your due diligence along those lines, and you're taking massive risk, and you're taking hard money or private money or whatever the case may be. You're putting massive risk into this equation. And then if you don't have baked into that risk equation that, all right, what happens if the market shifts down 25% in a 90-day period, which would be extremely dramatic, obviously. But that's the kind of risk you have to bake in here. And if it still doesn't make, great money at $350,000, then you have no business doing it. Just flip it. Just flip it right now. And by the way, that whole thing takes 180 days. Where a wholesale deal, you're going to make $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 and be out of it in 24 hours. And
that sounds like a better recipe for success right there.
Yeah. Just move.
So at what point did you had this real estate thing down? I mean, you figured it out and you're doing well with it. You'd realized I don't have to worry about money anymore. But you made a switch, a mindset switch and a business switch, and you decided to start basically showing people what you know, teaching people what you know. Like what made that happen? Because that's something not very many people do. They like to hold everything that they know and it is a big secret, but you decided you wanted to share everything you knew with the world. Like what
happened for me is that I was very successful with a methodology, this reverse wholesaling methodology in my grocery business, right? Which is really straightforward. Just start with the end in mind. Go ask every buyer if I could sell you anything at any price, delivered on any day in any quantity. What do you want? Effectively building a purchase order and understanding exactly what somebody wants and then working backwards from there. And so you back into the price you can pay, you back in all that stuff. And so it was very, very advantageous for us when we did this in the grocery industry. And so when we started doing it in the real estate industry, and then in fact went one step further and started figuring out a way to go mine data and back into and find cash buyers. So, we were going into our market, we were finding all the cash buyers, we were engaging the cash buyers, and then we were having this conversation with those cash buyers. And now all of a sudden we're just turning around and effectively creating opportunity. Ultimately, we know we're going to flip at one point to those cash buyers. That was pretty revolutionary, right? Nobody had ever heard of anything like that. And we were wildly successful at it. And so when I shared it with a couple people that I respect, Than Merrill being one of them at Fortune Builders, he kind of pushed me and said, you guys should figure out a way to get this out there into the world. I'd never even thought about it. I had a company called 1-800-SELL-NOW that I was helping, real estate investors with their marketing, where they could license my vanity phone number from me. But that's as much as I was doing to help any other investor outside of selling them houses. And so, he and I did a webinar together. We kind of talked through it, trained some people on it. I basically provided the data for them. And it just worked, right? People loved it. People ate it up. It was a real solution to a very real problem, especially when the banks were no longer lending money, right? The buyer pool had shrunk dramatically because the banks were no longer just lending you money if you fogged a mirror. And so that's how we got into it. And then once we got really good at getting data and now being able to go and show people how to find private lenders using our data, and then showing them how to find vacant properties using our data. We got into this data game and kind of became a go-to resource where people now clearly understood what our methodology was, but now we were also giving them the tools to be very successful at it. And that created, that ignited a fire inside of me. When it was very scary for me to go and share with my competition not only my methodology, but my actual customers, right? Not only am I going to give you what I'm doing, guys, to beat your brains in the market, I'm actually going to show you the people I'm selling it to. That's a really scary thing to do.
It sure is.
And so, but what I think we found more compelling was I had just never seen anybody provide the whole solution like that, where there's a lot of people that talk about it. And then there's a lot of people that kind of think they know, but here we were saying, not only do we know, we're doing it every day. And here are the clients, and here is the process, and here are the systems, and here are the contracts, and here are the forms. Like, to give somebody a business in a box like that, a franchise-like service without being a franchise, I thought was really, really compelling. And then when the feedback started coming back and we were actually starting to change people's lives. And it was just really exciting. And I think part of what got me is that when I got into this industry, I never realized how valuable it was that I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. And my father, I just watched him work side by side, right? And so I got to see what it took to do this. I never realized how big of a gift that was until I got out in the real world. And I realized that most people don't get that. 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, or 99 out of 100 don't get the opportunity to really work next to an entrepreneur at a very young age. But yet that's exactly what I got. And I had my PhD in entrepreneurship by the time I was 18 years old. And so that's why I was able to go run a $50 million company when I'm 23 and turn it into 800 million when I'm 27 and 1.8 billion by the time I'm 30, is because I knew, I'd seen it firsthand. And so what I mean by all that, and why I think it's, back to your question, is that knowing that most people don't get that advantage at all, to suddenly be able to sit in front of somebody and give them a real solution, start to finish, and say, listen, whether you came from an entrepreneurial family or not, this is real. This actually happens. And if you'll just do it, it only works always, over and over and over. That became kind of very exciting for me and became my calling. I'm like, man, this is a gift. This is a gift I can give to people. And in turn, now they get to give it to their kids, just like my dad gave it to me. They get to go and change their kids. Everyone that buys this and everyone that goes out and implements it, their kids will never have to work because their parents are showing them how they can be an entrepreneur. To me, that's just really cool.
It's amazing. And it's just a selfless thing too. I mean, you had all the secrets, you could have just continued on, but you shared it. You literally gave your best stuff away to your competition. Like you said, I mean, that's a risky thing. That's a thing not many people would have the balls to go out there and do. And you did it. And when Real Estate Worldwide got going, I mean, was it just did it go straight up? I mean, was it a slow and steady?
No. We basically, our first, it was find cash buyers now. Then it was find private lenders now. And then it was find motivated sellers now. And then it became Real Estate Worldwide, the Academy. And then it became the Boardroom. And so this kind of thing happened organically over and over and over, kind of the same way, Memphis Invest did. It started wholesaling, and then it was turned into rehabbing and property management. And you address what the market needs. We were great when we just sold cash buyers. We were better when we sold cash buyers and private money. And we were at our best when we kind of completed the holy trinity there, right? Buyers, sellers, and money. And so you just don't stop trying to solve problems for yourself. And then in the process of solving problems for yourself, you turn around and a lot of times you solve problems for other people too. So no, it was not just a take off, hey, this is how it's going to go. It was, all right, well, just stair step all the way.
I love that. Solve problems for other people and they will help you solve your problems. That's the golden rule right there. You give, you get. So Real Estate Worldwide evolved, and, it was kind of just one thing led to another, and you just kept pushing it and pushing it. And, we just got involved. Most of my audience does not know this, but my wife, Larissa, and I just got involved with your Boardroom. So Boardroom, to me, that's a fascinating concept, and we're brand new to it, but couldn't be more excited about it. I mean, it was one of those things, it was a no-brainer for us. We came out to your event and we watched this, we talked to people, and I kind of already knew in my mind, I'm like, we're going out there, we're going to sign up for Boardroom, but you got to see it. You got to experience. How did Boardroom come to be? Because that concept, and tell the audience a little bit about what the Boardroom is and just how that came to be and just what it's meant to you and what it's meant to all the people that are members of the Boardroom.
So how did Boardroom come about? Well, Boardroom, when I got started in the real estate industry, I was invited to go to a mastermind. I'd never heard of what a mastermind was. I didn't know what that was. And it seemed very odd for me to go into a room and talk about my business or have somebody else talk about their business and basically share ideas, right? I'd never even, like I said, never heard of such a thing. And prior to going into the mastermind, somebody had sent me the book, Think and Grow Rich. And so I read it. And so that really got me primed, right? I clearly understood now after reading Think and Grow Rich that what was going to happen in this room. And in fact, it was amazing. I was new to the education space. And so this was filled with a bunch of guys that were currently doing that, and sat down and heard the best way that they were all building funnels and dealing with merchant processing and making sure that the students were getting the best education, all these things that I didn't even know what I didn't know, right? I wasn't even there yet. And so it really helped me, understand the power of a rising tide raises all ships, that I was compressing my timetable dramatically, because I didn't have to go through all the suffering, all the pain, all the brain damage. I didn't have to do any of that stuff. They were just kind of solving all these problems for me in real time. And so I started joining masterminds right after that in every area of my business that I wanted to learn something, whether that was in digital marketing, whether that was in speaking, whatever it was, right? I couldn't get enough of it. And it played such a profound impact on my growth, both personally and professionally, that I guess back in 2013, there was just nothing out there like this, right? A friend of mine had just started a mastermind that I had told him. He and I had a discussion. He had started it in the real estate space. His model was a little different than what I would have envisioned for his particular mastermind. He was making it very, closed off. And so I decided, as much as it pained me, I was like, I'm going to have to go and compete with you at some level, because I think I've got to be able to get this into more hands than what you're doing. And this is just too important to everybody's success. It's something very, very different when you get in the room with people that are all going to hold you accountable. When you get in a room and you're hearing 20 or 30 amazing ideas, and you're also hearing 20 or 30 hard problems are getting solved, and amazing ideas are getting shared. That when that happens, you walk out of there with 40 to 60 real opportunities to improve your business that would have taken you 5 years. You just got it in 2 days. I think it was when we started it, we knew what we were trying to do. We knew we were trying to fill the void, kind of fill that vacuum that had been left out there. There was nothing like it, like I said, except for my buddy Jason's, and it just took off. And now, since then we've even improved it, more dramatically over the last 5 or 6 years, to where we have an escalation process, meaning that when you come in, if you're brand new to the business, you'll get the opportunity to meet the other boardroom members, but we're going to make sure that you're in a room, in a closed room, where the kinds of problems you're dealing with are being dealt with. And when you are, kind of moving from hobby into actual, it's now a business, it's kind of our boardroom elite, kind of right in the middle. Those problems that are being dealt with that room are different. And then at the very top, our billionaire boardroom, the problems at that level are very different. A lot of people think all your problems get solved when you go and start making $1 million a year. And I can assure you that is not the case.
Not at all. Not at all. The problems are new problems.
Yeah.
Bigger problems.
They just come bigger. And so we wanted to make sure that each one of the rooms and each one of the is basically the right audience is getting the right message, surrounded by the right people. So it's really, it's a powerful little group we built over the years. I'm glad you guys are in it.
I think it's incredible. I couldn't be more excited. Matter of fact, we haven't been able to make the last couple, and I know now we're dead set on all the next ones you do, because we've cleared our schedule for it. But what's unique is, and this can be said on what you were just talking about. On this podcast, the Real Estate Money School, I've had several boardroom members, and I had no idea. I had no idea you knew them. I had no idea they were in your mastermind, in the boardroom. And we're just talking like this. And all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I'm in a mastermind called the Boardroom. I'm like, wait a second. It just happens. You find out that all these successful people, that's how they're getting their knowledge. That's how they're scaling and catapulting themselves. And
it's interesting. Somebody just posted a picture of one of our original boardrooms. I just saw it go up on Facebook, and there's 10 or 12 guys and girls in there.
I saw that today. I saw that. That was incredible.
Every one of them are like rock stars now, and a lot of them are doing their own live events and doing their own pie. And it's I can remember when you were starting out, you were brand new.
Yep.
And so the idea is that, when you read Think and Grow Rich, it's really one of the concepts that I would hope anybody would pick up out of it, is that it is, if you're not on the inside, you are definitely on the outside. And as crazy as that sounds to somebody, that's just the truth, right? What happens is we all gravitate to our tribe. We're all looking for a place to belong, community, someplace. And then when we get in there, we all take care of each other. And so clearly, if you're not in the tribe, then in all likelihood, there's opportunities that you are missing out on, for sure. And so I never really caught on to that until I read Think and Grow Rich, where they talk about so much, that how much these guys would get together and sit there and share ideas and move transactions and partnerships. And I was like, and now when you get into the board, you can clearly see that that's the way the real world works.
Yeah. And I'm always talking about, successful people, because I have a habit. I follow successful people around, and I watch and I look at how their journey has evolved. And almost all of them do two things very well. They all invest their time, just like everybody that's watching this podcast, but they also invest their money. And when they do those two things consistently and persistently, their businesses and their personal lives catapult. It's almost like just being in a rocket. It just catapults you forward faster, smarter, and more efficiently. And that's exactly what you've created with the Boardroom, is that mechanism, that mastermind for all levels, whether you're just starting, whether you're kind of right in the middle, or whether you're at the top where you think you're at the top, but you're really just starting. And it allows you to catapult wherever you need to be. And I think that's just genius. I don't know.
Here's what it does. You know, if you were to wrap it up, and on the Boardroom, it compresses time, right? It just gets you there faster. You can certainly be successful without a mastermind. I think we all know that. But what happens is the collective experience and the collective wisdom of all of those people, and then all of those people focusing on your problems, trying to solve, get you a solution. And you do that several times a year, once a quarter, whatever. Like I said, it's just extremely powerful. You're taking a timetable that could be years and you're compressing it down into days. And if you don't value your time, then yeah, masterminds are probably something that you would never do, or even coaching or anything like that. But if you value your time, you just want somebody to get there faster. And so that's how it's done. And again, it's played a massive role, pivotal role in my success over the years.
Yeah. And I can't wait to get to the first one, because I'm sure it's going to do the same thing for us. And, you know, for all of you watching right now, guess what time it is? The time is now. So the time is now for you to take that leap. The time is now for you to make things happen, but they're not going to just happen in your life unless you take action, just like Kent said. So in wrapping this up, Kent, if anyone wants to learn more about what you do, about the Boardroom, about real estate worldwide, where would they find you? What are the best places where they can find out about you and how to get started in this?
Well, I'm pretty active on social media, so definitely on Facebook. Our fan page there, whether it's Kent Clothier or Real Estate Worldwide or Memphis Invest, it's not hard to find. Same thing with Instagram. You can always go to kentclothier.com. You can always go to memphisinvest.com. You can always go to reww.com. And then last, our newest venture, you can go to cribs.com, KRIBBZ. Those are all places you can find us, learn more about what we do and how we do it, and how to get involved with us. There's a ton of resources, you know, amongst all that stuff, a ton of free stuff out there, even on our YouTube channel. You know, we've got hundreds of free videos out there. So if you want it, it's there for sure.
So all of you watching this, make sure you check that out. And also Cribs, that new venture he's starting, I'm not going to go into that, but that is next level. When I say next level, I mean so next level that it'll blow your mind. And most of you that don't research it, when it happens, you're going to start saying, I can't believe it. Why didn't I think of that? It's going to change everything. So Kent's doing amazing things. You guys all check him out. This has been fantastic. And I know all of our audience, our rebel bankers, are going to be leaving this motivated and ready to take some action. So thank you so much for your time, Kent. I really appreciate it. I know I'm motivated. I know I'm ready to get started in the Boardroom. And for all of you getting started on your journey to being a rebel banker, make sure you check out a copy of the book, The Private Money Guide. Check us out online at chrisnoggle.com for all the programs and the events that we've got going on, so that you can get your journey started, and so that money doesn't have to be the barrier to you entering and following your dreams. So with that being said, thank you all for joining us for another edition of the Real Estate Money School. And Ken, I can't thank you enough for telling your story and sharing it with everybody here.
You got it, brother. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. And we'll talk to everybody soon.